so lucky to have him with us for this hour. How are you?
Fine. Happy to be here.
This is Taylor Oldroyd, and he is somebody that I've heard about for a long time. I literally have had to chase him down to find him, but I felt that it was very timely to have him come in and talk to us about politics and lots of things related to that.
Well, maybe we could just talk about persistence, because your persistence did.
I am persistent.
Yes.
No other talent, but that's it. And I want to start because we shared a little bit. I know your family, crazy about your parents. Now, they're on a mission somewhere.
They're in southern Japan, in Nagoya, Japan. They'll be home in February. So.
Oh, really? Oh, bless their hearts. Well, I have missed them. And they're good people. And then you have a brother that lives close to me. So I feel like I'm part of the family at this point. But I don't know a lot about you other than I've heard your name in important circles. So now that I've embarrassed you.
Well, no. Politics and being in a relatively small community, I think we all hear a little bit about each other, and you may be forgetting that I know your son Lincoln from back in high school days. He's a little bit younger than me, but so I've known your name, and I'm just thrilled to be here.
Well, thank you. Let's start, though, and tell us a little bit about you. I always wonder if people start in the 7th grade or 12th grade or when they get out of college. And getting involved in politics is really, it's iffy. It's different. Everything you do is out there for public scrutiny. And so tell me, were you an actor to start with?
No. I got involved in politics. My interest peaked because as I was looking at what to major in college, it dawned on me that it didn't matter what business or industry or major that I had. When I got out and was looking to get a job, politics would influence that business. I don't care if you're a plumber, a trucker, a doctor.
You're right.
Yeah, politics, public policy impacts your industry. And so I thought, I want to go right to the source and try to make a difference and be a pro-business guy, talking about limited government and keeping government in check, or at least to the items delegated to them, and allowing business to thrive and prosper. So that's kind of what motivated me to get involved, and the longer I've been involved, the more clear it is that government, for good or bad, really can impact your life.
And it does.
It does, and right now I think perhaps maybe more than ever, there are more people realizing that government is right now, I think, headed down the wrong direction. And I think that's why we see a lot of grassroots organizations and movements getting more and more people involved. And I think that's good. Anything that gets more people involved and gets people off their couch, so to speak. Apathy and complacency are the real threat to our system. So
they are. Now, you said you started after college, and where did you go first? I mean, let's say that somebody out there listening to us and watching us today might be interested in what we're doing in the community, and they want to know where to get started and how to do it. You don't graduate from college in politics.
Right.
It just isn't there. So how did you start? And then you're in a business besides that.
That's correct. So I majored in political science, and I always had more of an interest in national issues. And so I lined up an internship through the wonderful BYU Washington Seminar program, and got an internship on Capitol Hill.
You did?
Yeah. And so, but I was a little bit more calculating about it and saved it for my last semester of college, because I thought, the whole point of getting an internship is to get your foot in the door and maybe lead to a job. So I saved my internship till my last semester, the few credits that I needed, I got on my internship, and it worked out perfectly. It led right into a job on Capitol Hill. So I stayed up on the Hill and worked for a California congressman. He's not there anymore, John Doolittle. And I worked for him for a couple of years doing legislative correspondence and legislative assistance work. So in addition to my internship, I stayed in D.C. for a couple of years and just had a great experience. That got my feet wet, so to speak, to a lot of national issues, and I got to appreciate how the local level because I got to interact with a lot of county commissioners and even cities that would come back to DC and lobby. So
Tell
I
me
came
how
back.
you got involved with them because you threw out a lot of stuff right there. So back it down to kind of what did you do by, day by day if somebody's again listening and they think they want to get involved in this. At one point, I was approached when I was living in California. I took on the ERA problem and stomped around and wrote letters and
Mhm.
was very involved with some of the things there with at the Capitol in Sacramento. I then was approached to go to Washington as a lobbyist, but I was in the personnel business making 4 times what they could pay me. So
Yeah.
I didn't go. But that's what I know about where you've been.
Well, my role with the congressman at the time was to catalog and keep track of all the people that were communicating with him, and I think you're aware of how that works. I mean, citizens and residents get concerned about an issue and they'll write their congressman. A lot of people think that just goes into a black hole because of the sheer volume that goes through Washington, but we actually worked really hard to make sure we knew where everybody was and who was writing. And my interaction
So you
with,
really cared.
yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. Then and my experience and interaction with Congressman Chaffetz, our congressman here, he does the same thing. He works really hard to make sure he knows who's writing and what they're writing about, and they catalog it and you enter it into a system and try to keep track of the issue. A lot of times the answer isn't known right then, and so you have to do a little research, and so that's what the legislative assistance part is. You research what the bill is, and in many cases the congressman doesn't have a position on that bill. I mean, there's thousands of them introduced, and so then you have an opportunity to figure out if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
Were you in an office or did you actually get to go down on the floor? Did you get to see any of the action that was going on or be part of it?
Yes, the answer to all that is yes. You know, the 2 years that I was there on my first tour, because I actually have been there twice. Yeah, you get all the exposure to every aspect of a congressman's life, and it's a fascinating, it's a whirlwind in many respects. It's kind of like Hollywood. I mean,
They're on stage.
they're on stage every day, and there's only so many of them, so they're powerful in the fact that they influence what goes on. And so, you know, I even used to, with my coworkers, we wouldn't watch the screen, but we'd just listen to the voices and we'd see who could guess who was speaking. So, you really got to know a lot of the leaders of our country. And, I have pictures with everybody from Al Gore to George Bush to, you know, lots of members of
Okay.
Congress that aren't here anymore. So when you see them walking in the halls, you just jump in and grab a picture, and that
I
was
was going to
fun.
save this till the end of the program, but now that you've come right to that point, what are your ambitions? Then we'll go back and catch what you're doing right
Sure.
now.
Actually, having essentially my whole career been in this business, I'm asked that question a lot. When am I going to run, or what am I going to do? And I jokingly say that politicians are kind of like criminals. You need motive and opportunity. Um, and so,
I'm not sure what that says if you look across the board. That's a little
well,
scary,
it is.
but true.
Yeah.
Okay.
You got to have motive and opportunity to be involved in politics. I think, at least as far as being an elected official, the motive obviously is to create a better community and enhance our rights and freedoms. And for me, it's to defend the Constitution and protect families. So, I mean, the motive is there. I'm young enough still. I've got a young family. I just haven't either explored the opportunity or tried to generate an opportunity, but maybe one day
But
that'll
you're
come.
you're here. You're in the right position to do some things locally, and you already have.
Well, the only elected position I have, if you want to call it that, is I did run for Republican Party chair and served for 2 years as the Utah County Republican Party chair, which was a great experience. And it's different being on that side than trying to influence others to get involved. But that was enjoyable, and it's the Republican Party here is like a big family. We have our own fights, but I think everybody generally is involved to try to make a difference, especially now. I mean, literally, I think people's lives are at stake, their
They
their
are.
their careers and their homes, and we need more people involved. So anything, that's why I'm here, because anything I can do I tell my wife, I said, I never pass up an opportunity to to promote good public policy. So I'm happy to be here.
Now, you served on our city council?
No, no,
You
I've
didn't.
I've never I've never run for city or county office like that, just the party chair position.
Okay.
But I've influenced other. I've been in the business of recruiting and training and motivating others to get involved. And
There's an open seat now.
yeah, there. In fact, in Provo, there's 4 open seats.
I know. I've got my hand up. Going to go pick up the paperwork.
Yeah. Well, I think it might be too late for that, but
We have till
there's
the end of the month, don't we?
nope. The deadlines are passed for filing, so you'll have to.
Wait another time,
Well,
another period of time.
yeah, I'm happy to.
I thought it went till the end of October.
Nope.
Okay.
In fact, early voting begins October 25th
Ah.
for this cycle.
Missed out.
Missed it this time, but you're still young too. There's plenty
Oh,
of time to
yes,
get involved
right.
in politics.
In my cane and wheelchair. Actually, I will never be in a cane and wheelchair because Kayani is our sponsor today, and I'm going to tell my story again.
Well, please, I'm anxious to
You
hear
want to
it.
hear this?
Yes.
Okay. About 14 months ago, in July of 2010, I met Mary Louise Zeller and Larry Barkdahl, who are good friends and neighbors in our community in Utah Valley. And they told me about the products that they thought I should get involved with. And I said, no, 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 no. I've been CEO of a number of network marketing companies and I'd had my fill. However, for 2 years, I had not felt very good. And I was filling out paperwork and paying off my burial and doing all of this because I kept thinking I would maybe retire one day. And I wasn't feeling that good either. I took naps and anyway, I met them and they said, just try this product called Kyani, Kyani. There are 3 products and one has a little sister product. So 2 that kind of work together. They all work together. And so I did. I started those in July. And after 3 days, my blood sugars, I've been diabetic, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and crippling arthritis. See these hands? I couldn't make a fist. Now I can, and there's no pain. So anyway, after 3 days, my blood sugars dropped so low, I called my diabetic doctor and I said, what's going on? And so I told him what I was taking, and he said, well, I think you better give up the medication. And so I did. And then 2 weeks later, my blood pressure dropped so low, I was dizzy. And I called him again and I said, hey, something happened to my blood pressure. He said, well, the products are working for you. Why don't you cut out all medications? I think you'll be okay. I have not had any medication since July 2010. Nothing. I was through with everything.
That's great.
Then a couple of side benefits. I started losing weight because the Sunrise, the juice has a Alaskan blueberry, other superfruits, but loaded in minerals and vitamins. So when my body got all that it needed, then I just started losing the weight, and I'm still losing. The other thing that happened was because of the Nitro FX and because of the sockeye salmon, the omega-3, I slept better. I had energy, and I'm not sure yet that it's legal for me to have the kind of energy I have at my age. But
well, put it to good use. That's great.
It really, this works. It's now my food storage. I take it all day throughout the day, keep the energy up, and take it the sockeye at night before I go to sleep. Start the morning with the Nitro FX, which opens up everything in your body. And the people that have had dementia, starting Alzheimer's, it has helped everything and everybody.
Well, I've got a young family. What about young kids? Like I've got a 14-year-old that's a gymnast, very active. He's in the gym.
If you want to watch something happen, this is the product right here. And this product it stimulates our bodies to produce nitric oxide. And kids are using it, athletes are using it. He takes it 15 minutes before he works out or runs or whatever he's doing. I take it first thing in the morning. I take the Extreme, and then I take the FX, which is not quite as powerful, throughout the day. But I swim in the morning. So I kick the day into gear, and I'm just going all day long and all day long and all day long and into the night and going to meetings. And I will tell you more about it later. And if you'd like to know more, please call 801-362-9552. 801-362-9552. And for those of you that can't see because you're on the radio, please call me. I will come to you. I'll send you a brochure. You can look up where to find me online. All of that. Now, there's something I'm supposed to be reading here. What does that say? Per the Herald, any registered voter who lives in Provo may submit his or her name and a letter of intent to fill Steve Turley's seat by, October 27th.
Oh, this is the seat you were
Yeah,
talking about.
yeah, just to fill that seat up
Oh,
until
okay.
it's not an election.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So they're appointing just to fill the rest of this year, but that's an open seat, and so there are two candidates that are vying for that on the election day, and so starting in 2012, one of those candidates will be serving.
So,
So
is there any reason why I couldn't?
no, no, there absolutely isn't. You could serve for
Would you all vote for me? Because I can make things
well,
happen. You serve for 2 months.
yep, you serve for 2 months. The public actually doesn't vote. It's just the city council that makes the
Okay.
selection.
Okay.
They'll interview candidates. So this happens quite often. You'll have a vacancy for people go on missions, or people pass away, or they move, or a variety of reasons. Orem actually is in a similar issue right now because Mayor Washburn sadly passed. So it's an open seat, and that you serve the remainder of this term. In this instance, Steve's term's only the rest of this year. So
Well, the technician writes, no chance, Pat. All right. I want you all to tell your friends to tell your friends to tell your friends. And let me find out if I should be running, because I can make things happen.
that's right. Well, there would probably only be about 4 or 5 meetings where you actually would vote. But I actually had heard that Provo was going to just announce that they would. Let's see how this works, because once there's a resignation or a vacancy, they have 30 days by law to fill that. It turns out that the election is actually 38 days after the vacancy. So the council was really weighing whether they were hoping they could just have the election
Oh, at the same time. Okay.
and then just have the person sworn in on the same day, and then they would fill. So that's actually what I heard they were going to try to do, but maybe because the laws are sticky things.
Who should I go down and harass and hassle?
Well, I don't
course.
know if you need to harass anybody, but
Convince,
yeah,
charm.
you can.
Honey, can I use my southern accent? And I'll see what I can do.
Your charm and your energy because of your supplements.
Amazing energy.
But and your lobbying skills, and go to the chair is Rick Healy.
Okay.
So go talk to Rick Healy, or
All right, Rick, if you're out there, I'm coming.
look out, Rick.
Okay. So now let's bring you back here, because you have a business that you have been either now are president, or you have been president of the real estate.
Well, it's the Board of Realtors, the Utah County Association of Realtors, the Board of Realtors, and I'm the association executive. I'm not the president, but the president is a realtor, a local realtor who his peers or her peers vote them in, and so every year I get a new board president that I get to serve with. And the great thing about the Realtor Association is every realtor essentially competes with themselves, with each other across the county, but they come together because they realize that we're stronger when we stand together on common issues. And realtors, just like any other industry, it almost goes back to exactly why I got involved in politics. They're trying to make a difference. So the Realtor Association around the country, it's one of the oldest business associations. It's one of the largest as far as numbers. There's over a million realtors in the country, and they're involved in I mean, every realtor lives in a community in the valley, and so they're very involved in local, state, and national politics, because like most entrepreneurs, their livelihood is being threatened. We have, because of poor decisions government has made, our debt and deficit is at levels that no one would have
Well,
ever
I have three
thought
sons
of.
that have been in, they are appraisers, they've been in mortgages, they've been in sales, and in Southern California and here. And it's been a very, very difficult 3 years. Absolutely difficult. But let's segue over
Okay.
into housing also, in
Sure.
what is happening here in our valley, because it is a concern to everybody. The real estate business has been very scary. And where are we going? We still have some building going on, because I can see that happening. Other places don't have that. Everything's come to a screaming standstill.
Well, clearly the times are tough, and the economy in general has people concerned. And what we're lacking in a lot of the the macroeconomic issue, but in housing specifically, is just confidence in the market. And we haven't seen that. But there are some signs right now that the housing market is coming back. I mean, sales are up.
In Utah Valley?
In Utah County. Yeah, from a year ago, we're up 30% actually
That's
from
good.
yeah, absolutely. So, things were low, and so we had over 500 sales in the month, and these are existing homes. These aren't new constructions, so that's even in addition to that. So over 500 homes, existing homes sold in the past month, and there's only a couple of months in the past 3 years that we've had over 500 sales. So sales are up good.
Good.
I think that has a lot to do with the value. I mean, value has dropped, and so there's some good buys. So people have that confidence now that they can enter the market, and even if price slips just a little bit, I think they think in the long run this is a great time to buy. In fact, people that are trying to time the absolute bottom of the market, I mean, that's you don't really realize you've been at the market the bottom until you're
Just
going
start
up.
going up.
So if you've ever considered buying, I think it's a great time to consult your realtor and get out there and check the market out. Lending rates are really attractive. I mean, they're at historic lows. So,
Do we still have a lot of homes upside down where they bought too high and now the homes have dropped, or is that coming back?
well, I mean, anybody that bought a home within the last few years, yes, has seen that their value, they're probably what you would consider upside down. But unless you're selling right now, you're fine. I mean, it's not.
Would you say hold tight?
Yeah, absolutely. Hold on, and unless you absolutely have to sell, yeah, stay. And I think a lot of it's just supply and demand. I mean, supplies are down, and and the demand is high. Utah is fortunate. We grow our own demand here. I mean, we're the
Oh, I
youngest
know.
state in the country,
I
and we
didn't
have
know
the highest.
that. Are we?
Yeah, the average age in Utah is lower than any other state. We have so many young families, and so our median age is really low. But we grow our own demand. Plus, because our economy is well, frankly, one of the best in the country. We have a lot of companies and people moving to Utah right now. So we probably grow statewide about the size of Taylorsville. Yeah, it's about 40,000, so about 20,000 households a year right now. Utah's growing, so that demand really adds to what we face, and so we're getting through our inventories. We have a below a 9 month inventory of homes, and economists say that anywhere from 6 to 7 months,
That's good.
yeah, is good. So we're right there. A lot of good signs showing that now's the time
Is
to get in.
Utah County equal to Salt Lake as far as what's happening? Or I always feel like we're turning people over. They come in and they find jobs
Mhm.
somehow, and they stay and they raise families. And
Well, Utah County, I think, is the heart of the state. I mean, whether it's economics or politics, I think the Speaker of the House is from here, so we have a lot of great things going on in Utah County. Our governor's from Utah County, former realtor, by the way,
oh, I
great
know I
guy.
used to have him on the radio with me.
But
He's a good man. He worked hard.
we do face in Utah County a significant challenge right now, and that's our lending limits for government-sponsored lending programs. So Fannie and Freddie and FHA, our lending limit is significantly less than Salt Lake County, which poses a problem. So if you're one of these families or businesses and you're coming from out of state and you don't really know the geography and some of the cultural differences between the different counties, if you're wanting to buy a nice home, you might be inclined to go to Salt Lake County right now. We're trying really hard with our members of Congress to change the lending rates. And let me explain this to you. We talked earlier about government and how it has the ability to impact you. The Office of Management and Budget, which is in the administration, the president's office managed budget, but years ago created what's called a metropolitan statistical area. And it's just a arbitrary boundary that measures many demographic kind of information. But one of the things it measures is commuting patterns. They wanted to see where people are commuting. Well, if you live in Tooele, you're most likely to work in Salt Lake. Same with Park City. They're commuting
That's true. Yeah.
primarily. In Utah County, we are enough of a job base that we don't have a significant portion of our population commuting to Salt Lake. So we're in a different metropolitan statistical area, or MSA. Well, then Congress, in their infinite wisdom, passed a law that mandated that the use of the MSAs for loan limits. And so then they just set different loan limits. Well, if you imagine Park City's housing market, the value in Park City is significantly higher than any other market, including Salt Lake. Salt Lake County and Utah County are within 5 percentage points. But right now,
Park City.
Park City's median sales price is close. Their lending limit's around 700,000, and ours is below 300,000.
Right.
We're at like 272.
Right.
So there's a $400,000 difference between here in Salt Lake County, Tooele, and Summit County, and it's starting to have an impact on the market because, like I said, if you're from out of state and you're wanting to buy a nice home in Utah County, you have to bring more money to the table. And
is anybody working on getting that changed?
well,
Is it
yeah.
possibility for it?
Well, a couple of years ago, this scenario has been around for a few years, and initially Congress mandated the use of the MSAs, but we worked really hard and we were actually able to get language put in that said, or other area defined by HUD. So we gave them the administrative ability to change that, but they've been unwilling so far to do that. So they're now saying that it will take a standalone piece of legislation that changes the loan limits. We're actually working with the National Association of Realtors and other groups to get a lending limit that's the same across the country, because
that would make more sense.
Yeah,
Let's start there.
Let people qualify based on
Right.
on their background and their credit history.
To me, this little Utah County area is very, very stable. The fact that we don't have to go very far to find jobs, we're not all driving on freeways all day long, and we have significant people going to school and universities. I just feel like we're a much more stable community and should have a break in there. So who's behind that? Who's pushing it?
Well, it's mostly the realtor organization, and we're working with our state and national associations, and we've been warmly received by members of Congress, both our delegation, Hatch and Lee and Chaffetz, and Matheson as well. He represents part of Utah County until who knows what the redistricting process will bring. But
I know, don't start there.
Anyway, so we're trying to get a single loan limit across the country. I mean, think of it this way: if you went into your bank to ask for a loan, the last question you'd think they'd ask is, well, what's your commuting? What route do you take to work?
You wouldn't.
It's not a factor. It shouldn't be a factor, but right now it's a predominant factor, and so we're trying to change that. So we're looking for. We haven't introduced a bill yet, but we're working on drafting language to get that changed. There's no reason that Salt Lake County has a $400,000 higher lending limit than Utah County, other than the fact that they're in a different MSA. There are a lot of other communities around the country that we're working with: Chicago, Denver, any kind of metro area where the MSA kind of arbitrarily cuts the community in half. Just on the other side of the line, literally here in Lehigh, it actually cuts right through a neighborhood in Lehigh. So the guys across the street can borrow more money, and if you can qualify for it, then great. So
let me do a couple of things here, and then we're going to get back to this. I want to talk about some elections.
Okay.
What's coming up there? I want to give a shout out today for Tim Ballard. Tim is an author and has written a most amazing book that it's on the American Covenant. It's about our Constitution. It's particularly interesting to people of the LDS faith, and I think that you would enjoy this. He is speaking tonight from 7 o'clock to 8:45 in the Salt Lake Library, and in the main conference hall there on the 4th floor. It's at 210 South, 400 East in Salt Lake City. I met Tim. He's a wonderful speaker, a lot of energy, but he knows his subject, and he's got 2 books about that he's written on the American Covenant and how we look at the Constitution.
What's his last name? Ballard?
Ballard, yeah, Tim Ballard, Ballard. And the books are available. They're out in Deseret Book, but he will be in town. He lives in Arizona, and he's going to be in town, and they're going to be putting together a documentary. So I just want to give a shout out on that. And then also I wanted to thank Julia Curry again, who was here yesterday representing the Utah Valley Convention and Visitors Bureau. And if you are interested in getting a facility or having a facility or seeing anything that's going on in Utah County, call Julia. She's at 801-851-2100.
Is this the new convention center?
Well, they're going to be moving offices over there into that building where they're. That's amazing.
Oh,
She
it's
told us
beautiful.
about
Yeah.
that a couple of weeks ago. But she is the senior sales manager for Utah Valley Conventions and Visitors Bureau. So she actually brings people in
Okay.
when they get here. She sets them up on all kinds of wonderful tours. So that number 801-851-2100. We appreciate all that she's done for us. And again, if you're listening to us on KHQN 1480 AM. If you don't have a radio where you can listen, then watch us on your computer. We're at pat.utahvalleylive.com. And if you want any information beyond what you're hearing right here, call Taylor. No, the number to call is 362-801-362-9552. And my guest today is Taylor Oldroyd. And again, thank you for being here. And let's go on because I've got a lot I want to cover here.
Yeah, we're just getting started, right?
Yeah, we really are. I want to talk about the municipal candidate elections and what's happening there. And then I want to talk about tea parties a little bit and some districting, and also Utah Lake, which I've never understood. In California, that lake would have been developed so many years ago, I can't imagine. So I want to talk about that a little bit. And then if we can get to the problem of drugs,
Prescription drugs. Yeah.
prescription drugs.
No, I'm happy to do that. Yeah, the Smart Coalition.
There's a lot to. I can't tell you how happy I was to get off of $300 worth of drugs, and this is half the cost a month, and so much healthier. Why do we wait until we're sick? I keep asking that question. Everybody waits until they've got something instead of trying to prevent it, and these products will help prevent. Kyani, okay.
Well, I think a lot of times when the problem faces you, then you're a little more motivated than preventive medicine.
But I see people my age and younger that have passed away and had terrible problems, and they could have prevented them if they had taken just a little bit of caution, changed the diet a little bit. I've got a lady coming on. I had hoped to have her on this week, but we hope to get her on next week. And she's going to be talking about, she just cut out sugar and white bread, and it made into white flour, made a huge difference. All right. We're going to talk politics. So let's do it. Let's talk about what's happening with our candidates.
Well, this is the municipal election cycle. Nearly every city has 2 to 4 candidates or seats available. Here in Provo, we've got 4. 3, I think, in Orem, and with my role with the realtors, I've had an opportunity to interview many of these through our government affairs committee, and I've helped many of them, and I'm just excited. Countywide, there are a number of really good, business friendly folks running. I think it's important in these part-time legislative positions that you have people that bring their expertise to a legislative body, if you will, and we're able to rely on that expertise. It works at the state level as a 45-day session. We have business people and educators and attorneys and all people from a variety of walks of life come together, and I think that's a healthy mix to have.
Is it a personality that people look at? Is it their background they look at? And the candidate that decides, a person that decides they want to be a candidate, what do they need to have going for them? I mean, you've seen all of this. You've watched this for a number of years now.
Well, I think first they just have to have a desire to make a difference in the community, and I think we see much of that. Like I said earlier, the state of our political and economic affairs in the country has woken up a lot of people to what's going on, and I think that we need to close this gap of accountability, is what I call it. I mean, you have your elected officials here and the public here, and we need to close that gap. But the sad thing is the only way to close it is for the people to move this way. Government has shown it has an inability to do that. So we need more people involved, and I'm excited with the caliber of people here in Provo. We've got a home builder running, Kay Van Buren. I'm excited about his campaign. Citywide, we've got a new skin executive, Gary Garrett, running.
Oh, I know Gary very well. I didn't realize he was running. He's great. He's a terrific guy.
Speaking of persistence, I've kind of been part of a group that has been encouraging him for more than a year to get involved.
Great talent.
So yeah, he'll be fantastic. There's a probably the most competitive race in Provo right now is the first district that's up north. You've got Gary Winterton and Bonnie Morrow, two great business people, kind of going for that race. Both are great. So Provo's in great shape. In fact, interesting enough, I don't know how long it's been that we've had 4 open seats, so no incumbents at all running for reelection in Provo. I think, by the way, that's a sign that everybody realized that it's time for a change. And
Step up.
yeah, the public was asking for it, and we had great incumbents that probably could have gotten reelected, but I think they realized their 1 or 2 terms was sufficient, and it was time for somebody else. So
So let's talk about it. Is it a 2-year term?
it's a 4-year
4-year
term.
term. Okay.
Yes, 4-year term, and I'm just excited about Provo having some changes. Orem has having some changes in part because they're going to have a new mayor that will be appointed soon, and then they've got 3 spots in Orem running. There's a realtor running. Actually, I'm excited about that. John Vancott's his name. First time he's been seeking public office. There's another candidate who's been a number of times, Hans Anderson, who's running. You've got a couple incumbents, Margaret Black and Mark Sheestrin, that are running and did well in the primary. So
I've known Hans for a long time.
yeah,
He,
interesting character, very passionate, very conservative. So he's a CPA by trade. So I think that makes an interesting dynamic there.
so would you encourage anyone that has the kind of passion? Give it a shot. Give it
Oh,
a try.
absolutely.
Find out if you can do this. Does it eat up all of your day and all of your time? Because people still have businesses they have to run.
Well, I think that's one of the great things about having part-time councils is you are able to come and contribute on a part-time basis, but you bring your background and expertise. I mean, educators have served well in the past, attorneys, business people, land developers, home builders. I mean, you name it. BYU professors or so
It's open.
yeah, it's open, and I think you definitely need to if you feel that passion and want to make it does help though. You kind of asked this earlier. If you come if you've been a neighborhood chair, for example, or you've been on the planning and zoning committee, if you've been on the school board or in some kind of role, I think it just helps your understanding and awareness of what you're up against, for one, and then also how to build a coalition. I mean, clearly running for office, you're essentially starting a small business. What do you do to market yourself? How do you get people aware of your product? And if you're a candidate, your campaign is your product. So you have to build a coalition, and that's why the realtors, we interview many of these candidates. We've interviewed candidates from American Fork and Spanish Fork, Pleasant Grove, Cedar Hills. So we get very involved and try to recruit and motivate and train people that are aware of property rights. We think that's obviously an important issue. There are so many influences on property values. If you want to go back to what we talked about earlier with
Yep.
housing, government has the ability to harm property values through regulations and stuff. So we try to get people that are aware of those going into it, so that cities don't make bad decisions or raise fees or taxes and things like that keep business out. I mean, think of it, of a business coming from out of state. You don't know why you should move to Pleasant Grove or to Orem or to Provo. You're going to base that on your
Right.
decisions based on the fees and taxes and regulations you experience. So hopefully cities are aware of this, and I know many of them do have like active economic development efforts. So hopefully we'll have council members, the people that are making the public policy decisions, that are aware of that as well and can be friendly to business. Because the bottom line is, a rising tide lifts all boats. If we increase the size of the pie, everybody
Everybody.
gets a bigger piece, including government. So if government wants more money, the best way to get that is to kind of stay out of the way of business and let business thrive and prosper.
Can we get that all the way to Washington? Would that be
Well,
possible?
I think
You think
it's
they're getting the message?
well, I certainly hope so. I think the Obama administration is getting the message that their policies aren't working, and boy, the tide sure has turned in just 2 years. Of course, the level of their bad decisions has maybe been
Phenomenal.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Okay, I want to talk a little bit. Thank you for that. I
Sure.
appreciate the information. Let's talk about Wall Street and Tea Party and what people are calling Tea Party and they're not. And there's a mess going on in the country right now. But how are we affected?
Well, I think what this shows is the level of frustration of the voter is high, and when I say voter, I'm being generous in that because it turns out this Occupy Wall Street group, I guess 60% of them haven't been voters, and I don't know how they determine that, but I did hear that. So, but the bottom line is people are getting engaged, and I like this because what it shows is regardless of what you've done in the past, you need to get involved in what's going on. And they're focused on, corporate greed and kind of an anti-capitalist movement, which I think is missing the point. The whole point is we've got arrogant,
Mm,
entitlist elected officials, and I'm not pointing fingers at anybody, but just kind of collectively maybe there's something in the water in Washington. They get back there and they start feeling
don't
entitled.
drink the water if you go to Washington.
Yeah, I think that these movements, by and large, say that the status quo isn't working and we need to change it. And I agree with that.
What can we do on a local level as a body of people? How can we come together to make a difference? This next year is going to be dynamite, and we need to get started now
Hmm.
with what it is we want, not just sit and wait till election time. What can we do?
You know, Surprisingly, Utah is. I think we're voted the highest volunteer state in the country, which is great. So we step up, we serve our community, we serve our churches, but our voting rate is one of the lowest in the country. So
It's
we're
terrible.
missing a point somehow there. So I think people need to just get involved in those local races, whether they're partisan or nonpartisan. One of the great things about the municipal races, they're nonpartisan. So party doesn't really get involved in that, and I don't think they really do have a role there. In fact, my as past party chair, I've supported uh, Democrats that have run in the past on nonpartisan races. So uh, I think that's great. I think we just need people to get involved in those races. So we need our voter turnout
That's it.
higher.
And is there a reason for it other than apathy?
Apathy and complacency.
That's it.
People are frustrated, and if you're busy in your business and frankly maybe struggling in your business, you don't have more time to get involved in local politics. The trick is, the real question is, you don't have time not to get involved because it's the apathy and the complacency that's leading to these business regulations and policies that are hurting your business. So you really can't afford not to get involved. If you're a small business owner, whether it's your ability to be a candidate, or maybe the only thing you can do is maybe write a small check to one of the candidates, or you can volunteer your time to, knock doors or something like that. So I don't think anybody really can rationalize away the fact that they haven't voted. A lot of people say, "Well, I don't know anything about the candidates." Well,
Take a few
yeah,
minutes.
take a
Take a
few
few
minutes and get
minutes.
to know, or join a group, join an association or a business group. I know, like the Chamber of Commerce, they have a government advisory committee. They work hard to try to inform through debates and public forums. So
That
there's
that is
really
a
no excuse anymore.
that is a good group, and there's another one called Corporate Alliance.
Corporate
But the
Alliance.
chamber I was with for 18 years as one of the sales and marketing
Mm-hmm.
directors, and I can tell you they go at it seriously.
Mm-hmm.
Steve Dinsley's headed up that
Yep.
situation for a very long time, and it was Provo Warm. Now it's Utah Valley,
Yep.
and so you can always call Steve down at the Chamber of Commerce. They're in the old county courthouse
Yes.
in downtown Provo. Okay, I want to talk a little. Thank you for that information.
Sure.
And again, go vote for somebody somewhere. Do something. I mean, we
Absolutely.
can't make a change if we all don't go do something.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I went to. I'm trying to think when the election was. We were in a hot hallway for 2.5 hours, and I hope they have solved that. It must have been. That must have been the presidential
Waiting to
election.
vote.
Waiting to vote,
Yeah.
and absolutely, it was snowing outside. It was so hot, we thought we were going to die. People were peeling off jackets and long stockings, and I mean, it was terrible. So, and then they move around the voting
Well,
uh,
they have done a few things.
facilities. Has some of
Absentee
that been
voting,
worked
early
on?
voting. Yeah,
Okay.
you can start voting this month. October 25th is early voting. You have to go in person, but you can vote, and there's really no excuse
Where is it?
to miss. There's a handful of locations around the county. I think they have them in the
The old
mall,
county
the
courthouse?
courthouse.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you have to, when you're
It's not
running
the
your
old county
errands,
courthouse, it's behind. It's the building behind
right?
that one. So there are places. In other
Yeah,
words, you
city hall.
can.
I think there's a few city halls in the county that have them. So the county elections office will have those
Okay,
locations.
but you can do it early.
You can do it early.
Okay. Let's talk about Utah Lake because I love water. I was raised in the Carolinas, and when I first saw that lake, I thought that is a very neglected lake. And I have
Hmm.
years ago in my other life, I learned to swim at as a teenager at water ballet at the Desert Gym, the old Desert Gym in downtown Provo. So I went back to visit relatives in the South, and I joined a troupe of water ballet, and we just took on every lake all over. We went to a lot of the USO clubs, different Army facilities, and we swam in the blackest lakes I've ever been in, and they had water moccasins, but you got to get that leg in the air and do that turnover. Oh my. I look back and only young and dumb would we have been in that water. But
Good
this,
exercise though.
no, it was great exercise. We had a lot of fun. But this lake has so many possibilities,
It
and
does.
it just hasn't come to its own yet.
Well, I have heard, and you mentioned this earlier, that Utah Lake is one of the last freshwater lakes that really is undeveloped. There's been many ideas floated. I mean, I grew up here, and I remember hearing them. The Utah Lake has a couple of challenges. Some are aesthetic, and some are actually, kind of structural. The lake is shallow. It's one of the reasons why it gets color dark, and people uh, think less of it because of that. But it's actually very clean. Chemically wise, it's very clean. It just doesn't look that way because of how shallow it is. It grows algae and things like that, which look bad but aren't really
Well,
bad.
at the
So
time, this was 20 some years ago, almost 30 years ago, there was a lot of garbage out there. So am I assuming it's been cleaned up,
yeah,
that people environmentally, somebody's been doing something?
well, and one of the groups is the Utah Lake Commission. I sit on the public advisory committee of the Utah Lake Commission. In fact, we met this morning, and it's a group of waterfowl enthusiasts, ski boaters, sailors, the environmental groups, even a couple of homeowners associations that have homes right on the lake. So, as a public advisory committee, we talk about some of these things, and there's a number of things that are going on from eradication of invasive species, including the carp. I mean, the carp is a big detractor. They are dominant in the lake, and there's a effort to harvest, is what they call it. I guess that means kill, but harvest 5 million
Carp?
tons
Of carp?
of carp a year out of there. There's some groups out of state that think that there's a market for this. Carp is a desirable fish in many parts of the world, and so there's a group out of Minnesota that want to harvest these and
Do
flash freeze them right on the spot and then
really?
ship them to markets.
Do
Yeah.
people really eat fish that come out of that lake? I mean, because when you swim in it, I don't know that I would want to swim in that. I'll swim almost anywhere.
Well, I swam a mile in it last year. I swam in the half Ironman triathlon. Then they swam right in the harbor there, and it's nice. There's nothing. They've done
Really?
a lot of
They've
testing.
cleaned it
The
up
test
then.
they've chemically there's nothing wrong with it. It's just a little earthy flavor because of the algae. You don't want to drink too much of it, but the ski boaters know what I'm talking about.
That's
So,
funny. So what are they going to do with it? Is it going to be
well,
a recreational center? I mean, that is it's a good
yeah,
sized lake.
there's lots of proposals from the private development side, but what we can do in the meanwhile is we can support the Utah Lake Commission. Reed Price is the executive director down there, and it's a great kind of public-private partnership. You've got nearly every community in the valley, especially all the ones that border the lake that have their
Is the
property go down
Saratoga
the
Springs around on the
Saratoga
other side?
Springs.
Yeah.
Everybody that borders the lake sit on this commission, and Provo's been a driving force behind it, as has the county, and they're trying to build it in a cooperative way. Efforts, including this eradication of invasive species like Phragmites, those tall kind of cattail-looking things. But this kind of cooperation is unique to Utah. This is a concept that's been needed for a long time. I learned just the other day, and this kind of, I won't change the subject too much, but Utah is one of the few, I think the only state in the country that has a unified transportation plan. So as communities, we have a history of coming together and figuring out where we want roads to go, and so that you don't have dead ends when you get at city boundaries. The road continues. So we have a unified transportation plan through the Mountain Land Association of Governments and the Wasatch Regional Council. And this Utah Lake Commission is kind of like that when it comes to the lake. So they're dealing with transportation issues, they're dealing with invasive species, they're dealing with recreation.
Who owns the
So,
property around the lake? Or
well,
is
the
it
state
privately?
does.
The state owns it.
The,
Is it ever going to be for sale that people can develop? That's really what I'm asking
but
because my kids grew up. We grew up in Arrowhead and
I
Big
think I
Bear Lake
misspoke.
in California.
The lake bed is owned by the state. Individual farmers and
On the
owners own
shoreline.
own the shorelines. So I think there have been in the past developments proposed, and so I think we'll see the lake kind of come on its own. Because of it's so shallow, and people might ask, why is it that way? The challenge is they've done drilling in the lake, and the silt that we, for those of you that have swam in the lake, the silt and the algae, it actually goes down over 400 feet. There really isn't a rocky bottom to the bottom of the lake. If you remember, this is the remnants of Lake Bonneville, and this has been around a long time. So millions of years of sediment is there. So people have said, well, why don't you dredge, 100 feet off? You couldn't. I mean, it literally would fill right back up, and I'm not sure there's any cost. Uh, it
But
wouldn't make
right now
sense.
they
So
allow water skiing,
sure, you
so
can
the
do,
motorboats are out there,
absolutely. There's
and
a
you have sailboats.
sailing, Bonneville Sailing Club, I think, is on the lake. So yeah, you've got your
Can you put
fishermen.
houseboats out there?
I've never seen any, but
I haven't either.
it's not your destination
I,
place that way. But
Years ago,
yeah,
a friend named Lavorne Sparks.
sure,
Remember that name?
yeah,
Well,
Sparky.
he was, yep, Sparky. Well, that's his son. Sparky is the
Hmm.
son. So this was his dad, and in Southern California. And they moved up here and could not believe that that lake wasn't developed. And that was, gosh, 40 years ago or so.
Hmm.
I'd like to think we're getting closer to the point where it can be developed into a great recreational area for families,
Hmm.
campgrounds and personal homes owned, and
I
just
I
all.
think I think that our changing demographics will push that. The markets will be created. When you look at the county in 40, 50 years, Eagle Mountain, Saratoga Springs will actually theoretically be bigger than Provo and Orem, just because there's
They've
room
got
for
room to
growth,
grow.
and as infrastructure is done well over there. In fact, even now, if you're driving anywhere in Provo and Orem headed west after nightfall, and you look across the lake, you used to not see any lights,
It's
and now
totally different.
it's
A
all
whole
lit up.
city is over there.
Yeah, so it's changing.
It'd be fun to hear about that as we go along. I want to get into this problem, this situation with the SMART coalition. And let's talk about that a few minutes
Yes.
because we have a major problem in our area.
Yeah. A lot of people don't realize how big of a problem we have with prescription drug abuse.
That's
The
why we're
SMART
going to talk
Coalition
about it.
is the substance abuse misabuse reduction team, and going back to our propensity to build coalitions, that's what it is. It's predominantly the county commissioners. Commissioner Anderson is I believe, chairing this, and there's actually a department in the county that deals with preventing prescription drug abuse. So the SMART Coalition is just a bunch of us that are concerned about it. And I was shocked to find out that prescription drug abuse is the number one cause of death in the county. Um,
Cause of death? I
absolutely.
thought you were just going to tell me we were taking too many drugs, but now you tell me we're taking them and killing ourselves.
Well, it is a overdose of prescription drugs, but it also could be, but the prescription drugs led into other drugs, which you know, it used to be a huge leap from prescription drugs into heroin, for example, but now it's like this, because heroin is sadly really cheap, and people are making that leap, and so prescription drug abuse
We're talking about what age group? We're talking about across the board?
across the board. Yeah.
Woo!
So it's
We're
it's
talking
it's a
adults,
sad
not
trend.
kids that have made a bad choice, but adults that are making bad choices.
Well, you didn't necessarily make a bad choice. You went to your doctor and you got prescribed a drug that you thought was going to help you. Maybe you blew out your knee skiing, or maybe you have a bad back, or whatever. You go consult your doctor, and I'm not blaming the doctors; they're doing their job too and helping you. But the legislature has actually helped in this as well. They've set up a database where it used to be you didn't know if you're a doctor and I'm a doctor. I didn't know that you may be prescribed a certain drug for somebody, and I didn't know, so I prescribed them the same drug,
Now
and
they've got double
now they've got
doses.
double dose, and
Woo!
that's how then the drugs get shared. So there's a number of efforts, clean out your medicine cabinet, things like that. I'm trying to help smart. In fact, I hate to raise
Give
the
me what that stands for.
it's
SMART again.
Substance Misabuse
Abuse.
Abuse Reduction Team.
Okay.
I probably got that right. I hope. Anyway, the bottom line is a group of people trying to make aware the problem. In fact, we've got an invitation into Dr. Oz to come to Utah County and do a show about this issue. This is clearly a national issue, although surprisingly, it is the number one cause of death here in the county.
You mentioned something about database, and I didn't let you go there. So
Oh,
let's go back, because I think that
yeah,
is a major problem. You give a prescription, I give a prescription, somebody else, if we're doctors
sure.
or dentists or whatever, and
Wh-
then pretty soon your medicine cabinet has
Yeah.
really a plethora of drugs.
Well, and we've seen stories in the news about police officers or even realtors, people that have access to people's homes that go in and they'll steal this, teenagers that are need it. You with the amount of medicines that are out there, people are trying to get it. So what the legislature did is they actually mandated, and I'm not a huge mandate from government, but in this regard, I think it's good public policy. So as a doctor, when you prescribe, you have to put in the system what you've prescribed and to whom, and so it makes it hard for people to go out and get multiple
Do we have
prescriptions.
clinics? Do we have people that are working with people that are on drugs? I mean, you can't just wake up one morning and say, I'm not going to do drugs anymore. It's more complicated, even in prescription drugs, in particular prescription
Sure.
drugs.
Yeah, there's a network of nonprofits and government-sponsored groups
Here in the valley?
that have the treatment centers. Yes, um, Pat Bird down at the county and the Smart Coalition can help. I don't have that information off the
Okay.
top of my head, but maybe we can.
Maybe we should have somebody on to talk about that. Or
I would highly recommend it.
I didn't realize it was such a problem.
Yeah. Uh,
Um, we're going to run out of time here, but I want to do this before we do, because I had the good fortune to meet Mitt Romney during the Olympics. I was in the right place at the right time with the right people, and I found him to be very charming, very interesting. I, of course, followed his career.
mhm,
I felt that he was not handled well at the last election. People that knew him as a state president or as the governor of their state had an entirely different feeling about him than some of the anger that came out
mhm.
before. I feel he's handling himself better, got better people advising him. Excuse me. But I want your comment.
Sure. I think
Excuse me.
the prospects of the 2012 election are fun for us political scientists. This is just great theater, great drama. I think Mitt Romney, it is his to lose from the Republican nomination. Chris Christie announcing today that he's endorsing him. So I think that will kind of counter the anti-Mormon kind of effort that's trying to raise its head again, which I think is proven to be desperate politics. So
Well,
I think
I really would like to see that work against Perry, because I don't think it was right for him to do what he did, or to have the people endorse him that would come out and make statements. For those of us that know that we are Christians, it's a real needle going on, agitation.
well, it's a sad commentary maybe on our whole society when this is gets as much publicity as it does. I mean, in today's day and age, in no other, I think, environment would this even play. It's highly offensive, and I think while it should be a factor in people's understanding, I don't think it should be the determining factor. And I think Mitt Romney's on the path to get the nomination.
Good. Thank you for that. My guest today has been Mr. Oldroyd, Taylor Oldroyd. We thank you for being with us, and we thank you for being with us on the radio and watching us. This is Pat Sheranian. Have a great day.